Alright, so it has finally come to an end. This chaotic mess that's been happening for a while now has finally been put to sleep. Odell Beckham Jr.'s career in Cleveland has officially come to an end. The Cleveland Browns have officially released Odell, and he'll be heading towards waivers. Both sides were able to come to some sort of resolution, and they were able to release him. So Cleveland is moving on. Odell is moving on to whatever team's going to get him. And that journey has officially come to an end. Man, this has been quite a mess for Cleveland. It's been a whole issue. And honestly, we knew it was going to come down to this. At the end of the day, after everything that's happened, it felt like they needed to cut him. It just wasn't working out. When Odell first got to Cleveland and it was first announced that he was going to Cleveland, I'm not going to lie, I looked at the situation and I was not sure it was going to work. But at the end of the day, they were getting a great receiver, at least based on what we saw from him in the Giants. They were getting a great receiver, a very talented receiver, and they were going to pair him up with Landry to make a dynamic duo, and it was going to be a huge threat. Cleveland was ready to be on the rise. 3 years into this, and there's nothing to show regarding this situation. That first year was rough. Honestly, it wasn't great at all in that offense because Baker wasn't performing well and the offense was a mess. Odell did not gel well with Baker at all to start off with, and the offense was just a disaster that first year Odell was there. But a lot of people were able to say it wasn't Odell, it wasn't Baker, it had to deal with the coaching. That was the main issue. So they got rid of Kitchens, brought in Stefanski, and in 2020, he reamped this entire offense and got it to be something stable and something efficient. So now it felt like 2020 was going to be the year this was going to work out. And they kind of had their moments here and there. It still looked like it was a work in progress, but they would have the whole season to do so. And then Odell got injured at some point during the season, I believe around the Cincinnati game, and was out for the rest of the season. Once that ended up happening, the whole Odell-Baker chemistry thing went out the window for that season. And Baker and the Browns offense would proceed to move forward without him, and they'd actually do relatively well. Down the stretch of the final 11 games, they would go 8-3. Baker would have really good numbers. I believe, 20 touchdowns to 3 interceptions. He played great down the stretch. The offense played great down the stretch. They were able to get into the playoffs, and they won a playoff game. So, everything was working out. It looked like Stefanski came in and finally stabilized his offense. And that made a lot of Browns fans very happy because they believed once Odell came back, they would be able to slowly work him into Stefanski's system, get him involved. Him and Baker would get this chemistry issue officially fixed. And coming into this season, they'd be able to take off and do what they needed to do. Unfortunately, that was not the case coming into the season, as we've seen throughout the several games where it's been a problem, especially that Vikings game. That Vikings game was one of the worst. Looking back on this, it's going to be tough. There are definitely a lot of Browns fans that are in different camps with this. There are a bunch of Browns fans that blamed everything on Odell. They looked at Odell, said he was the main problem. He was the main issue. There were times where he just didn't catch the ball. He wasn't doing what he needed to do. It felt like he was crying for the ball at times when he wasn't getting it. They just felt Odell was the issue. And if he can get away from this Browns team, the Browns will be a better off team without him. And then there was this camp of Browns fans that believed Baker was the problem. They looked at games like the Vikings game where he was completely missing Odell and just throwing terrible balls to him and just missing him time after time after time again. They believed it was Baker's fault. He's not a good quarterback. He can't throw. And he's missing Odell time and time again. He's the reason Odell's playing bad, not himself. It's Baker's fault. So there were two different camps with this. And then you have the group of fans that were like, it's a mix of multiple things. And I think this camp of fans that saw the situation for what it was actually were able to pinpoint the main problem, which is what I was on. I was on that camp. I didn't believe it was all Baker's fault. I didn't believe it was all Odell's fault. I felt like it was a mix of things. But the number one thing that played a role into this not working out had to deal with the system. Yeah, Baker missed Odell plenty of times. Yeah, there were times where Odell just didn't make the catch or didn't make the play or just slipped or something happened. Both of them have some blame into this. But the main issue I see in this situation has to deal with the fact that Odell just does not fit into Cleveland's system. He does not fit into Stefanski's offense. The offense that they choose to run does not fit well with Odell's strengths. and it was clear as day he didn't fit in with the system, and because of that, the struggles continued to happen. I think that was the main reason it didn't work out. Yeah, Baker missed Odell plenty of times. That Vikings game was a clear example. And Baker hasn't been playing well for much of this season. I get that. And yeah, there were times where Odell could have made the play and he missed it. Obviously, that fourth down drop against Chargers was a clear example. But I don't think it was one specific side to blame. I just think he just didn't work in Cleveland. They tried to make it work. They took a chance on a talented receiver. And for some reason, him and Baker just weren't able to gel well. The chemistry was not able to show on the field, and they just weren't able to get it together. And once Stefanski came in and stabilized this offense, that was the offense they were going to run moving forward. And Odell just did not fit in that offense. He didn't fit in the system Stefanski was running. So because of that, there were struggles. And, the frustrations was coming from Odell's side, and it came to a point where it felt that the team just needed to move on. That's why I felt they should have traded him, but I guess they couldn't get anybody to trade him to, which I don't know. I feel like if you offer a 7th round pick, somebody would bite for Odell. Maybe others just saw the situation and felt that we could probably pick him up on waivers. At some point, Cleveland's going to have to cut him. I don't know what it was, but for some reason, they weren't able to trade him. I'm sure they looked for something, but nothing was coming out of it. So it is what it is. Odell's moved on. Cleveland's moved on, and we'll see where Odell goes next. Now, in terms of Odell's next team, I don't know where it's going to go. I don't know who's going to pick him up on waivers. I don't know what's going to happen. There have been a bunch of teams that have been linked to getting Odell, and one of those teams happened to be the Ravens. In fact, I've even seen some Ravens fans already on Twitter advocating for the Ravens to go out and get Odell. Which, my whole opinion on this is I don't necessarily mind getting Odell. That's another weapon, but for me, I'm perfectly fine with the receiving core we have right now. The young talent we got there, we're building something. It's starting to finally show up. The fruits of the hard work that T. Martin and Keith Williams has done with these guys, it's starting to show up. Bateman's just got back and he's starting to make an impact. And I feel like we got the weapons we got here is plenty fine, When Sammy gets back, which I hope he'll be back soon, probably will play against the Vikings, we'll see. When Sammy gets back, there's another weapon to add on to it. You got Hollywood, you got Sammy, you've got Bateman, you've got guys here, man. You've got guys here. We've got our main guys. Of course, Mark Andrews being one of the best tight ends in the league, but you've got those 4 main guys. I don't think you need to bring in Odell for something else. Of course, if he comes in, he'll be the 3rd wide receiver. That's going to be clear as day. He'd probably be the 3rd wide receiver because the chemistry Lamar already has with probably not even 3rd wide receiver, 4th wide receiver. I don't know, because the chemistry he has with Hollywood, Odell's not going to be able to get past that. The chemistry he has with Bateman is starting to show, so I don't know if he would put him over that. It's confusing. I don't even want to think about that. I don't think the Ravens are going to pick up Odell. If that was to happen and be a scenario, we'll talk about it. If we're hearing talks that the Ravens aren't interested in doing that, we'll talk about it. But I don't think the Ravens are going to get him. I don't think Odell's going to Baltimore. If you ask me, there are 3 teams I see trying to pick him up. The Raiders would be looking to pick him up. That'd be one because they've just released Ruggs and they could use another weapon. We already know what's going on with the Ruggs situation. Not going to get into that, but they could definitely use a weapon to replace him. Green Bay, that could be another place because, Devontae Adams is that number 1 guy. And pairing Odell with Devontae would definitely add another very useful weapon and a very talented weapon for Aaron Rodgers. So I believe he can thrive in Green Bay. But the number 1 team I think that may be looking to pick him up would have to be the New Orleans Saints. Michael Thomas is done for the season. He's not coming back. So your number 1 receiver on your team is out for the season. He's not coming back. That is a perfect spot for Odell to go to. That is a perfect team for Odell to go to. If they're looking to replace Michael Thomas, Odell can take that spot. So I think the Saints will probably be the number 1 team on the radar that may be looking to pick him up. I've seen people say the Patriots. I've seen people say other teams, but I think the Saints might be a team that may be looking to get him specifically because Michael Thomas is done for the season, and getting a talented guy like Odell could definitely help out. Now, of course, a lot of people that believe Odell was a problem, they believe he's washed up, they believe he can't perform at that same level again, and we'll see if that ends up being the case because when a team picks him up eventually, he'll get an opportunity to play, and we'll see what he's able to do. But at the end of the day, let's just be glad that whole situation in Cleveland is over, especially if you're a Browns fan. And with that being said, you're moving on. we'll see what happens throughout the season. Odell's no longer there to be seen as the guy. That's the main issue with the offense. So whatever happens moving forward, happens. If this offense all of a sudden kicks it into next gear and they're thriving without Odell, well, we'll look back and say Odell was such an issue that he needed to go. He was holding the offense back. If the offense is still struggling and they can't get anything done, and all of a sudden down the stretch, Baker's not playing well, people will look at the Browns and they'll look at Baker and say he was the one that was at fault for the most part. Either way, we'll see how this goes down. It's been a whole messy situation, but Odell is officially out of Cleveland. And Cleveland's moving on to do something else. And Odell, we'll see where you go next. Anyway, that is all I got for this. We'll see how this goes. I don't know what team's going to pick him up, but it's going to be a whole situation. But we'll see what happens. Anyway, with that being said, that is all I got, and I'm out of here, man. Peace.